Bonjour et bienvenue sur ma chaîne. Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be learning 20 French verbs every beginner should know, and the first 4 are absolute non-negotiable. We use them every day in every conversation, so if you're just starting out on your French learning journey, perhaps you might want to focus on just those 4 and learn them in the present tense before you move on to the others. But either way, let's get started. So for each verb, I'll give you an example in the present tense using je, meaning I. And what you might want to do is you might want to pause the video once I've given you the example and guess the meaning. And then after that, obviously, I will tell you what it means in English. Okay, ready? The first one is être. Être, which means to be. And we use that to talk about ourselves, describe things, and also to make the past tense. So it's obviously one of the most important verbs in French and it's used in every conversation. So, for example, je suis anglaise. Je suis anglaise. I'm English. Next, we have the verb avoir, which means to have, and this one is also used to make the past tense, so it's obviously very important as well, and we use it to talk about what we have, our possessions. But one key difference between French and English is we actually use the verb avoir also to say how old we are. So in English you would use to be, être, whereas in French you use avoir, to have. We have so many years. We are not so many years old in French. So avoir. For example, j'ai 2 enfants. J'ai 2 enfants. I have 2 children. Or, j'ai 35 ans. J'ai 35 ans. I'm 35 years old. Actually, I'm a bit older than that. But no one needs to know. Another essential verb is aller. Aller, meaning to go. And we use this one to talk about movement, where we or something is going, and also to talk about the near future. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important. And just like in English, we form the near future in the same way in French. So you would use the verb aller in the present tense, and then use an infinitive if you want to talk about the near future. For example, je vais partir. Je vais partir. I'm going to leave. Or just using je vais just to talk about where I'm going. Je vais au parc. Je vais au parc. I'm going to the park. Next, we have the verb faire, which typically means to do or to make, but sometimes it can also mean to play when we're talking about sports or an instrument. For example, je fais un gâteau. Je fais un gâteau. I'm making a cake. Je fais de la guitare. Je fais de la guitare. I play guitar. By the way, if you like this video and would like to keep learning French with me, please check out my free email course. The link is in the description. It includes audio, pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, phrases, cultural insights, pretty much anything you might want as a beginner. So if you're interested, click on the link in the description. I'd be happy to see you there. You should use the next verb when talking about ability, what you can do, or to ask for permission. That verb is pouvoir. Pouvoir. And it translates to can or to be able to. For example, je peux payer par carte. Je peux payer par carte. Can I pay by card? Then we have a similar verb in terms of conjugation. It is vouloir. Vouloir. To want. And when using it in the present tense, you need to use it when talking about what you want for yourself, desires, wishes, goals, those kinds of things, but not when ordering in a restaurant. If you use it to place an order, to order in a restaurant, then you really want to use it in the conditional instead, because using it in the present tense would be a little bit too direct. So, for example, je veux apprendre le français. Je veux apprendre le français. I want to learn French. But if you were making a request or an order, you might want to say je voudrais un verre d'eau, s'il vous plaît. Je voudrais instead of je veux. Je voudrais un verre d'eau, s'il vous plaît. I would like a glass of water, please. To tell someone what languages you speak, you want to use the verb parler. Parler, to speak. Je parle français et anglais. Je parle français et anglais. I speak French and English. Next, we have the verb aimer. Aimer, which means to like or to love. So obviously we use this to talk about our likes, dislikes and our passions. For example, j'aime le chocolat. J'aime le chocolat. I like chocolate. And talking about chocolate, next we have the verb manger. Manger, to eat. Je mange une salade. Je mange une salade. I'm eating a salad. And of course, when we're eating, we usually also drink. So, boire. Boire, to drink. Je bois du café. Repeat. Je bois du café. I'm drinking coffee, or I drink coffee. Now the next verb is a little bit interesting because it works slightly differently to its English equivalent, or at least it's used in a slightly different way. It is regarder. Regarder, to look at. But in French, it also means to watch. So you would use regarder when you're asking someone to look at something or when you're telling someone what you're looking at, but you would also use regarder when talking about watching TV or what it is that you're watching. So it's not two different verbs in French, it is the same verb, regarder. For example, je regarde la télé. Je regarde la télé. I'm watching TV. Or, je regarde des photos. Je regarde des photos. I'm looking at pictures. Number 12, we have jouer. Jouer, which means to play. And you can use this to talk about games or sports, in which case you use jouer à followed by the name of the game or sport. For example, je joue au foot. I'm playing football. And you can also use jouer to talk about instruments, but in which case this time you need to use jouer de followed by the name of the instrument. Je joue du piano. Je joue du piano. I play piano. Now, a verb you'll find particularly useful to talk about your daily routine is travailler. Travailler, to work. So you can use this one to say where you work, when you work, that kind of thing. For example, je travaille à Londres. Je travaille à Londres. I work in London. The next verb can be used for two different purposes. One, to describe what you're seeing, or two, to arrange to meet someone. So that is the verb voir. Voir, which means to see. For example, je vois mes amis le week-end. Je vois mes amis le week-end. I see my friends at the weekend. Or, on se voit demain? On se voit demain? Are we seeing each other tomorrow? The next verb is also very important because we use it to say all kinds of different things. It is prendre. Prendre, which means to take. So we use this just like in English to talk about our means of transport or the fact that we want to take a shower or anything we want to take with us. For example, je prends une douche. Je prends une douche. I'm taking a shower. Je prends le bus. Je prends le bus. I'm taking the bus. Je prends ma voiture. Je prends ma voiture. I'm taking my car. Next we have mettre. Mettre, to put. And it's used in pretty much the same way. So for example, je mets ma veste. Je mets ma veste. I'm putting my jacket on. I'm putting on my jacket. Not too sure which order it's meant to be. One or the other. The next verb is particularly useful because you can use it to say where you come from, but you can also use it to talk about the recent past. It is venir. Venir, to come. So venir de means to come from, but you can also use venir de followed by an infinitive to say what you've just done. So to talk about the recent past. For example, je viens de France. Je viens de France. I come from France. Je viens de faire le ménage. Je viens de faire le ménage. I've just done the housework. Want to talk about where you live? Use the verb vivre. Vivre, to live. Je vis à la campagne. Je vis à la campagne. I live in the countryside with the cows and the sheep and the pigs. Number 19 is particularly useful if you want to talk about your thoughts, your ideas, or your opinions. It is penser. Penser, to think. Je pense que c'est une bonne idée. Je pense que c'est une bonne idée. I think that's a good idea. Do you know how to say to know in French? It's a little bit tricky, isn't it? Because in French we have two ways to say to know, and they're both used for different reasons. So here we're talking about savoir, which means to know, but it's only used when talking about skills or facts. So what you can do, what you're able to do, or things you know as facts. For example, je sais cuisiner. Je sais cuisiner. I can cook. I know how to cook. Je sais nager. Je sais nager. I know how to swim. I can swim. We're talking about a skill. If, on the other hand, you wanted to talk about things or people you know, then you would use the verb connaître. But for skills or facts, you need savoir. Je sais, I know. Je ne sais pas, I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, if you want to keep learning French in a logical order and have a bit of support and guidance, and also learn a bit of the ins and outs of French life, then please check out the link in the description for my free 7-day email course. Thanks for watching. À la prochaine. Bye.